Ow.
What's up, everyone? Punchy back with Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 3 to Higurashi. Let's see, last time we did it. We confessed to Coach, or Doctor, Doctor, that we killed Totoko's uncle. Because Punchy was trying to figure out if Coach had ever heard anything about, like, someone being somewhere where they weren't there, or people saying they were. And Coach didn't believe him. Coach thought he was going crazy, but Punchy's like, well, I couldn't have been at the festival because I was killing Totoko's uncle at the time. I could smell the concrete in the room. I could feel the air around us sharpen. Nobody moved. Only the sound of the clock ticking told us time hadn't stopped. With his mind wide open, Coach even forgot to blink for a little while. You killed Satoko-chan's uncle. Yeah. It's fine now, Punchy Maribara. Don't hesitate. Admit it with all your strength. Yes, last night I did it. I killed him. I spoke clearly and fluidly. I could easily tell that Coach's mind had gone completely blank. Why would you... No, that was a foolish question. I believed this was the most direct method of saving Satoko, so I carried it out. I don't have any regrets. I see. Coach smiled thinly and nodded a bit. So I couldn't have been at the festival. I left the brightness of my house for the darkness of the outside. After that, I dug holes, made phone calls. I had my hands full. And then I attacked him, killed him, and buried him. It was pouring hard at the time. The festival started that evening, but was suspended due to the rain. There were no gaps in my memories. From the late afternoon until it started to rain. There was no time for me to possibly have gone to the festival. And those wounds, are they from that? Yes. There's a road through the forest near Satoko's house. I attacked him there. He ran, but I chased him. And I finally killed him near the road that leads to town. Is that true? Killing her uncle. It wasn't some wild fantasy? I could tell that Coach didn't believe me. So I spoke slowly, not letting myself grow excited. It's true. I killed him with Satoshi's bat. I threw it and Uncle's motorbike into the swamp. I dug a hole, killed him, and buried him. I did it all by myself. Satoko-chan's uncle drove past you on a motorbike, did he? Then you predicted he'd do just that and just waited? I assumed he wouldn't be leaving his house that day, so I lied to him over the phone to get him out. You called him? But your house is so far away from Satoko-chan's. I wouldn't think you'd be able to make there so soon after calling him. I used the phone closer to where I was going to attack him, the one at school. But Meibara-san, it was a Sunday. Wouldn't the school have been locked up? A forest ranger happened to go inside for a bit. I slipped in when I had the chance. After that, Coach grilled me on a few different things regarding that incident. He made sure to question me carefully, looking for any contradictions in my account. I believe you. What you did yesterday doesn't seem like a dream. I explained everything, including minor details that only someone who actually committed the act could explain. I could, of course. It was only yesterday. Coach realized that my story had no expedient coincidences or too convenient details that would have existed in a daydream or a delusion, and finally seemed to want to believe me. So, do you think I was still at the festival and lost my memory? Coach slowly shook his head. But everyone in class, they said I was at the festival yesterday. Is that even possible? No, it's not. Your classmates probably mistook you for someone who looked very similar. Then, given how group psychology works, everyone just assumed that you had been at the festival. They couldn't have mistaken me. Mean and all the rest of them said they were spending time with Punchy Maribara. It was much more than having just having mistaken someone else for me. But saying that out loud would just confuse Coach. He spoke to me in whispered tones. Do you feel guilty at all? It didn't sound like he was criticizing me. And even if he had, I would have gladly said the same thing. I don't. I did it so I could return to the peaceful days that he'd stolen from us. So I plan to forget all about having killed him and live my life as usual. Once Toko's regular smile returns, the one from before he showed up, everything will be finally over. Any chance that someone witnessed the crime? I don't think so. If someone had seen me, I would have been arrested already. I am a doctor. My job is to save lives, so I cannot make any statements to the effect of condoning the taking of another's life. So instead, I will say this. Oh. Coach slowly rose and placed a hand on my shoulder. For saving Satoko-chan, I thank you. Coach's eyes started shedding warm tears, not the reaction I expected. When I looked at him, I started to feel some tears of my own. I didn't know what I was crying for, and so for a little while, the two men in the room fought back their tears. But it's strange. What is? I'm sure I killed him, and yet he seems to have returned home alive. Coach's expression immediately sharpened. Depending on the situation, there are many ways that mere unconsciousness can look like real death to a layperson. Do you think it's possible he was just knocked out? I didn't check for a pulse, but I'm pretty sure I did him in. Can I ask you to reproduce the situation in which you attacked him, Maribara-san? Coach rolled up a health and fitness week poster nearby and offered it to me to represent the bat. Though I may have been lost to the motions of a beast that night, I remembered in detail the number of times I swung the bat, the angles I had swung from, and the force I had applied. Using Coach's stand-in for the uncle, I reproduced them over, one by one. And when he tripped and fell, I bashed him in the top of the head like this. When I did, it felt different from the other strikes. I thought I'd cracked his skull. Coach was calmly analyzing this information, using the places I'd struck and the situation at hand to find what state the uncle's body had been in. I wasn't totally sure if he was dead, so I hit him a few more times after he fell. Did he react at all? At first, I started to feel his body jolting with every hit, but eventually that stopped too. He didn't react at all. Coach folded his arms and said, a few times. And then he spoke. He's dead. There's not much doubt about it. He didn't just look like he was? I can't say very much from just your story, Maribara-san, but I think it's almost certain. Besides, you buried the corpse in the mud, and that took you quite a bit of time, right? Let's say it took you 30 minutes. That would mean he was buried under muddy water for those 30 minutes. If you don't breathe for that long, your brain will die, no matter what. You mean, even ignoring how hard I hit him, he would definitely have died while I was burying him? That's right. It's impossible to stay alive buried underground for 30 minutes. Impossible. You're right. But Satoko, she says he's alive. Coach, a doctor, just gave a stamp of approval that he was dead for sure. That made it seem all the more unfair that he could still be among the living. Maribara-san, this is a really horrible idea, but is it possible the person you killed wasn't actually her uncle? Huh? He's right. That could be why. It cleared up the inconsistency of my definitely having killed someone, but him still being alive. There's no way. I mean, we were both at Satoko's house when she was bringing alcohol inside, and there was a man who stuck his face out of the window to look. It was him, right? That was Satoko's uncle, right? Yes, you're not wrong. It was that man. Could she have had more than one uncle or something? Not one that I've ever heard of. It's just him. Could you tell me what he looked like? Well, his height first. He was about 175 centimeters, maybe a little taller. In order to limit the worst possibility that I killed someone else, Coach began to thoroughly compare what the man in his mind looked like with what I told him the person I killed looked like. But no matter how in-depth my description went, none of the characteristics differed. The uncle's traits, according to Coach, were all exactly the same as the person I'd killed. But those traits were all extremely vague, and they weren't particularly distinct at a glance. Is there anything else about him that would let us identify him for sure? Now that you mention it, I have never seen it, but I believe Stoko-chan once said a long time ago that he had a tattoo of a tiger or something on his back. A tattoo? That was really important. Not everyone had a tattoo. If I found a tiger tattoo on the back of the man's corpse, it would be proof that I killed the right one. At the moment, though, there was one other thing that would verify this. To go to Satoko's house and see for myself the uncle that had returned home despite having died. But that was far more terrifying than digging up the body and looking at its back. Without even looking at the tattoo, I knew for sure the one I had killed had been Satoko's uncle. I cracked his head open and killed him, and yet he'd gone back home. There wasn't any misunderstandings or even the shadow of a doubt in my mind about having killed him, and yet it was impossible for him to exist. Kind of like how Punchy had been at the festival despite it being impossible. The small commonality made me feel as though a faint but bizarre force was permeating this insane Hinozawa. I wonder what on earth could have happened, despite you not going to the festival and killing Satoko-chan's uncle. You were at the festival, and the uncle you killed is alive. None of this makes any sense. When I look at everything that way, it's almost like I'm just having a nightmare, and there's no killer at all. But it's the truth. The sensation as I used my own hands and that bat to bash him again and again. It was no illusion or dream. Coach let out a slow sigh, and then after looking at the clock, got up. Let's go over this a little more seriously. If you excuse me, I'll go put on some tea. Clinic's about to close, after all. I need to let the other employees leave. Coach stood up and went out into the hallway, leaving me alone. The clock was about to strike 6. I was at the festival, and the uncle I'd killed was alive. Had I really committed murder yesterday? The only whisper of a fact that proved it happened was the absence of the bat from Satoshi's locker, even. In any case, I was glad that Coach had taken my nonsense seriously. I just confessed to murder. Normally that would frighten a person away, but Coach didn't run. He cried with me. I was glad he did. So my tension smoothly melted away, and I suddenly realized I really had to urinate. I thought to use the restroom when Coach had stepped out. There was one across from the waiting room. As soon as I left the room, I saw Coach and 2 male doctors wearing white clothes standing in the shadows of the hallway nearby. I didn't particularly intend to eavesdrop or anything, but I was quite surprised upon noticing how uneasy they seemed. I hid behind the wall and quietly listened in. It seemed like Coach was giving directions to the 2 doctors. Black tea? I'll make some. Mix in amylbarbitol and ravonol. Cover the taste with milk and sugar. He may grow suspicious at the sudden onset of drowsiness. It's possible he may get agitated and become violent. We will handle that. How many male staff are still here? 1 mountain dog. Including us, 3. What was all this? I think I was already agitated despite what Coach said. Was that it? Was it just a casual conversation, and it was only sounding unbelievable to me? Coach said he would bring some black tea and left the room. And then, in the shadows, he was telling his subordinates to put some kind of sleeping powder in the tea? Plus, they were getting extra help, in case I thought the sudden sleepiness was suspicious and started getting violent? Hey, wait! Punchy Mirabara. Calm down. There's no way something this stupid could be happening. I mean, he was genuinely listening to my story, and he even cried with me. I thought he was the one person in Higurashi who would understand. There are signs of fabrications or falsehoods, and his memories of yesterday are, in particular, completely confused. He can no longer tell truth from falsehood. It's quite similar to multiple personality disorder. But as for how quickly this mental disorder emerged, it's just not normal. Maybe it's inborn, or perhaps there were signs of it before he moved here. I'd like to take a look at any records of him staying at a mental hospital before he moved here. In any case, I want him to take a quiet nap. The two doctors nodded deeply. I should probably contact Mirabara-kun's parents too, though I can't think of what to tell them. Please find his home phone number for me. My eyes, still moist, began to shed tears once more. This was too cruel. I really thought he'd actually understood and had believed what I told him. But now, from the other side of that wall, he was bluntly treating me like a crazy person. I believed you. I had let down my guard because I thought you were the only ally I had left after that insane night. Was that a lie? All that about thanking me on Totoko's behalf, were you just pretending in order to keep me placated? My tears fell to the floor in frustration. I was an idiot. I was such an idiot for believing that bastard. I heard footsteps approaching the doctors. A man in a dress shirt with no tie came running up. Dr. Irie! It's terrible. They found Takano-san. Takano-san? Wait, where? Well, apparently they discovered her burned corpse in the mountains in Gifu. She's dead? Takano-san? The men, all surprised, exchanged glances. Dead? Takano-san? Hey, wait. So then, does that mean when I cursed her, wishing for her for death, that wish was granted? What do you mean, burned corpse? Was it an accident? According to the Gifu police statement, the possibility is extremely high that she was murdered. So this goes along with the second chapter, actually, on how she ended up. As I cried, I laughed quietly. Serves you right. If I hadn't run into that woman, my murder would have been perfect. But she just had to come driving up to me and tried to coerce me like that. I regret not having killed her on the spot, but now she was dead anyway. My curse, my wish for her demise, it was fulfilled. Serves you right. Risa-san died, and Takano-san died. What on earth could be happening in Higurashi? Don't tell me. This was all Oishiro-sama's curse for this year? Like hell, I'll let this curse be real, Coach said. Everyone present just nodded as Coach cursed at no one in particular. Maybe it wasn't Oishiro-sama, but this was definitely a spell, a curse. I wished for her to die, so she did. If this wasn't just a coincidence, and she died because I wished for it, then you'll die next, Coach. You betrayed me. You pretended to believe me, but deep down you thought I was a madman. You looked down on me with all the pity in your eyes. For now, get the black tea ready. I'll bring it inside. I don't think he'd let anyone beside me be alone with him. Shit. What do I do? Punchy Mirabara. This time I heard the voice of a nurse. Dr. Irie? Oh, there you are. You have a phone call. I'm a little busy at the moment, so please tell them I'll call back. Who is it from? Mr. Oishi from the Okinomiya Police Department. Sheesh. What bad timing. Alright, I'll answer it. Coach left to go answer the phone. The other men headed towards the room with a teapot to make the black tea, like Coach had ordered them to. Fortunately, Coach having to take the phone call meant there would be extra time for me to act. I had to decide what to do now. Would I let him make me drink a sedative-infused tea, or be held down and thrown to a mental hospital? Nothing would come from starting a brawl here. They had more people anyway, and they were all bigger than me. If it came into a fight, I didn't stand a chance in hell. If I could win against them, there was only one thing left to do. Well, couldn't win. Run. Adrenaline suddenly rushed into my brain, and my body started to move with keen instinct, like it had on that night. My surface temperature quickly cooled, and the transmission routes between my cells enlarged. Using 360-degree visual information, I searched for an escape route. I would open the window behind me. Outside was a parking lot. There were no cars. A little beyond there was the bicycle I'd taken to get here. I determined this would be the quickest method of escape. I approached the window swiftly, but with little sound, to raise as little suspicion as I could. With the speed and silence of a shadow, like I had on the night I chased her uncle. I locked the window and opened it up. Cool evening breeze wafted in. I stuck my head out and looked over the parking lot again. Nobody in sight. No need to hesitate. I quickly crawled outside and closed the window behind me. I held my breath and listened carefully. Nobody seemed to have realized I'd run. I looked around. Then I jumped to my bicycle and zoomed away. The pedals clattered under the force. Had my bike always creaked like this? Did the pedals always whine every time I pushed down on them? My bike wasn't the only one crying though. My tears fell as the wind cut through them. They rode the breeze and scattered behind me. Ugh. I hate this. I hate this. I'm not the crazy one. Hinamizawa is. How dare you treat me like a madman? Die. Die. Just fucking die already. I believed you. I believed you. Oh, wow. It's a little embarrassing to act mad. I got into the hospital in order to escape Rena and Mian's invitation, but the reality that was waiting for me had been too cruel. Who was inside me? It was insane. Me or Hinamizawa? Or was the answer something else? I started having trouble breathing. I didn't have any clue what was happening anymore. The loud trips of the Higurashi were irritating me. Were even the Hinamizawa Higurashi I knew so well calling into the wind? No, that wasn't quite it. They weren't calling. They were crying. The pained wailing of those lost in some kind of rhythm in another world, no longer able to return to their own sunlight. I didn't do all that to end up in a world like that. And actually, at about this time, I might have been having fun with everyone else. Satoko would have gotten her smile back after realizing her uncle wouldn't ever come home, and she might have shown it to us at our first club meeting in a while. That was the kind of world I wished for. So, what was this? Why did I end up in such a strange, ghastly world? Someone I'd killed was living like normal, and I had enjoyed myself at the festival despite not being there. I don't want it. I don't want this strange world. When did it start going wrong? When? No matter how much I thought about it, I never understood. Oh, jeez, poor Punchy, man. I mean, I say poor Punchy, he did kill a man. But we're behind Punchy, so I do feel bad for him. It's weird, he's a murderer, but I feel bad for him. Jeez. Well, so now we know that Coach isn't actually our buddy, I guess. He still thinks that we're delusional and everything. And, man, poor Punchy, I mean, it's weird, because usually luck isn't on our side where I feel like he wouldn't normally hear something like that. In actuality, he would have been drugged and taken away had he actually had the bad luck that he always seems to have, if it continued. But now, it's obviously turning into the everyone kind of against Punchy, kind of like Kinozawa against Punchy, because his friends, are like starting to go against him. But I want to see what happens when we get to Sutoku, because this didn't really clear up things for me. this video, it more just made now I know that we have another enemy that we thought was a friend, someone that we actually can't rely on. Also found out that Takano is dead in the same way as the second one. So I forgot who said it, but someone said that it was as if chapter 1, everything went right in chapter 1 and 2, right? It was different parts of it. We didn't go with Shion and stuff like that. But I don't know how. I forgot how Tomontaki died in this one. I think he was still with his throat thing. But Takano died the same thing as the second one, where she was found in a barrel, burned to death or whatever. Whew. Alright, I'm actually going to continue this so I can have 2 videos for today and tomorrow. And then I'm going to try and get this one out. If not tonight, then very early tomorrow morning right before I go work. Really, that's my usual time, is I upload right before work and just do everything right before work. Sometimes it causes me to be late, but what can you do about it? Anyway, sorry if I'm talking really fast, guys. This got me hyped, and I'm gonna keep going. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in a little bit. Bye bye.